Rachel, congratulations. You played a powerhouse game with so many remarkable moments. How are you feeling watching it all back?
Oh, I'm just so relieved. I feel like I have been lying to my friends and my family for so long, and I'm just glad that it's out in the open. It can be celebrated, it can feel real. There's like an element of disbelief when you come home and then you have to go back to work and act real life and just act like nothing ever happened. And you're like, did it happen? Like it's a very surreal experience. And so getting to watch it all back, feeling like over time, you're like, yeah, it is building. This is the game. And like, yeah, having it all culminate yesterday was amazing. It's been such a fun ride and I couldn't be happier.
I'm so glad that you're enjoying it. And that's so funny to think about. Like you spend 26 days lying on an island and then you have to go back home and like lie to people and keep up this act of real life when everything has changed for you. So who knew and who didn't? Did you tell your husband? Did you tell
I
anybody?
told my husband, I told nobody else. So literally like my parents didn't know, my sisters didn't know. And so like my sisters are here, I'm in LA right now, and my sisters were here for the finale and they were like, how like you were so we thought that you would be so excited you wouldn't be able to hide it. Like they were just in disbelief. Both of them at one point or another had been like, I don't think you win, just because they could not believe that I would be able to keep it in for this long.
That is too funny. And something about your journey that, some people may not know is that you were an alternate for 46. And so it's just so amazing to think about that juxtaposition of the flight back home from Fiji that time when you got so close to your dream, and then the flight home from Fiji a year later where you're coming home the winner. How did that influence your experience this time around and what you brought to it?
I think that what the like year between the two seasons gave me was kind of a mentality shift. I don't think it was anything tangible, like no tangible advantage in the game, but I think that like I remember telling like or not I remember like when I was the alternate being like, God, I need this. Like I need Survivor. I've been driving for this for so long. I feel like I was, like 25,000 applications, they take 9 people and I'm number 10. Like how does that happen? It just feels unreal. And then to come back the next year and just have this kind of clarity of like, you're getting to come back as an actual player, like straight up. And that is a win already. I felt like I was playing with house money. I felt like I had a little bit of more like levity and it felt more of like, I really, really want this instead of like, I need this. And I think that it shifted the way I saw the game and it gave me more license to just kind of play and adapt and just not be like, so I just felt like I was always at risk of overthinking. And I think that going in with that kind of pressure on my shoulders to like be perfect, I kind of was able to let that go. So it was more of a head thing for me, but I am grateful for it.
I love that for you. You did make a lot of instinctual choices and really build a lot of momentum. Where, from the fans' perspective, by the last couple episodes, we're like, Rachel must have this in the bag. Like, she really is the winner pick here. Did it feel like that to you when you were on the island, or did it feel more precarious, like this could go either way?
It was certainly precarious, but I did feel my momentum building. And like, the thing about having the idol in my pocket and no one knowing about it was that I wanted to elevate my threat level enough for that when I played the idol, it would be extremely impactful. And so there was an element of like, you're going to play slightly different when you have different tools. And so I think that the moment that I was like, I think I have this game was winning that Final Five immunity because I knew Genevieve was the last boss that I needed to get out of the game before I could, I go to the end with her, I lose. I know that for a fact. So I just winning that was so close between us. That was the moment where I really felt like I had a real shot.
Now, what was your mindset like during Final Tribal Council and making your case, tossing those grenades back and forth with Sam and trying to assess, is the jury buying what I'm selling here?
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was gonna lob some crap at me, and I knew it was going to be a good fight. We have like a very fun dynamic in the game and in real life of just like kind of a sibling rivalry and just being able to interrupt him and be like, no, but this, and he would do the same thing back. It was so intense and so stressful, but I was also having so much fun with it. And I remember being like, I am so scared that I am losing this right now, but I am also just having the time of my life just defending and like sparring with Sam. Like, he's such a good player and he is so well spoken. And in a million years, you would never guess that he's 24 years old. And I just feel like it was, I'm so happy. Obviously, I was backing Teeny and Fire and ultimately had Sam at the end, but I was so grateful that it turned out the way it did because I really felt like it pushed me. I'm always best with my back against the wall. And I think that that was another instance of like knowing that Sam was going to be really difficult and like it made me like have to be better.
What jury question challenged you the most?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I think, the whole Ben Mike like comparison and trying to like be like you didn't like Andy and I talked about Survivor a lot out there and he knew that the types of players we both respected the most were not the kinds that were of the likes of Mike and Ben and for me to play a game like that so unexpectedly and out of the blue it was certainly a reality check as to like sometimes you have to play the game that's in front of you and sometimes that requires adapting to that game and taking the only path you have left and I think recognizing that and acknowledging it but also not apologizing for it was a very tricky line to toe because it's also like I knew how I felt about it but you're also trying to pander to a jury and you don't know how they feel about it and so it was very difficult to be like I don't think I have to reconcile with this. However, I feel like I have to still like sort of reconcile with it because like I feel like you just know this about me that is not the game I sent. There was like a less intentionality coming in to play a game like that. And it's like, do I have to apologize for that? I don't think so, but maybe you think so. And that is the tricky part of the jury.
Yeah, that was such an interesting part of Final Tribal because every fan that's watching has that winner's ranking in their head too of like this is the game that I respect, this is the game that maybe not so much. What kind of winner did you envision yourself being when you came into the game and what did you learn about yourself from being presented with I actually have to take a different path?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine coming in and being able to kind of like socially manipulate better, to be able to anticipate other people's behavior better, to know when people were lying to me. And I think that last one is truly my biggest weakness in the game was that I have a really hard time when people look me in the eyes and they tell me they're doing something and to me it logically makes sense from their perspective to do it that they could be lying. Like it didn't add up in my head. And it was hard for me to kind of like undo that and be like, but we don't necessarily see the game in the same way. Andy doesn't see Operation Italy the same way that I think Andy sees Operation Italy. And so yeah, after the Sierra boot, I laid in the dirt that night and was like, everything you've done in this game has not worked. And if you want to go home tomorrow, you can keep doing this, or you can 180 this and adapt and figure something else out. And I do think that like ultimately Sierra going home was the best thing that could have ever happened to my game because I no longer felt beholden to anybody out there. I was like, every single person has burned me, and therefore I am now going to use people the way they have used me. And it felt like permission to play a lot harder than I was necessarily trying to play at the time.
Now, was there something that you said during Final Tribal arguments that you felt like was your thesis statement, was the moment that really like solidified things in your eyes and possibly in the eyes of the jury as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the whole way I played my idol and the ability for me to sit there and Sam to say, like, I just built Rachel up as a threat. She wasn't actually a threat. And then for me to be able to be like, but perception is reality on Survivor. And when you build me up to be a threat with everybody else and you all target me and you can't get me out, and then you sit next to me at the end of the game, how can you reconcile that to the jury, when you've told them you can't beat me? And so I think that that was definitely my strongest argument against him. And it's why I wanted to play my idol the way I did, because I felt like even if I don't think I would have beaten Genevieve, but even if I had gotten to the end with her, like she also did that. And I think that that would have been like a notch on my side at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you had so many interesting moves throughout the game, especially the shot in the dark innovation that you did, which is totally going to change how people think about it. Was that something that you mentioned at Final Tribal and it didn't make the cut?
It wasn't. I, I think I did a lot of these kind of like micro moves that didn't feel lofty enough at the time to bring up as a move. And I feel like my perception was like bringing up something like that. People could just be like, you think that's a move? You think that's a big move? And I didn't want that to people to get hung up on these little things that I like she doesn't, her game's not big enough. She has to bring up these little moments to like justify why she was playing well. And I see in hindsight that I was wrong. I do think that that would have had impact, but it just didn't really occur to me. I was like, at the moment, I knew it was very clever, but it was like a very defensive. Gabe is not going home tonight, and I'm terrified to write his name down and go back to camp with him. So the only way I can avoid voting for him and not throwing a hinky on someone else is playing this shot in the dark. And as I'm like searching in my bag, you can literally see me searching for it because I did not anticipate doing that going in. I was like, and if people freak out, I'll play my idol. Like it was so, because I didn't like set it up intentionally as a move. I didn't think to claim it as a move. It just felt like the scrappy way to get out of the situation I found myself in at tribal while it was happening.
Well, it goes down as a very memorable move, as does your rice snatching, one of my personal favorites. Can you take us through your mindset in that moment and also getting caught by Jeff? Do you think that he should have let it slide?
Yeah. This is what I believe happened. So I was nervously massaging this rice as I'm watching them try to do this snake puzzle. I'm starving. It's the time in the game when your body's being hit the hardest with the shock of not having food. Sam had been puking up coconut that morning. He couldn't get it down. I'm like, our strongest guy can't eat. And I'm like, you know what? If I take this, uh, either they'll make me dump it out after the challenge, or I get to go back to camp and be like, look what I got, guys, and have this like great moment where we get to eat a big meal. Never in my calculus did I think Jeff would call me out and throw me under the bus in front of everybody. And I think that from what I've never been told this, but but I believe from talking to a few other contestants, the Lavo had asked if they could take the rice. You're allowed to like ask questions as a tribe before. And so they had asked and they were told no. We did not ask. I thought of it in the moment. And so I think that I don't know if Jeff thought we all knew that we couldn't take it or if he forgot which tribe had asked, but I think he was under the impression that I was told I couldn't take it and I took it anyway. And that is why he called me out. And so it was very scary. And it was something that I did not ever anticipate happening. And I was like, oh my God, I'm being thrown under the bus by Jeff on like day 5 in front of everybody. And this is bad for me. If you know me, when I was like dumping it out my pockets, that was a like, like face. That was like not like this is a cute moment face. That was like is my survivor game like going, am I gonna get voted out for like pocketing some freaking rice? Like it was very nerve-wracking, but I'm glad it was like so fun on TV. That was one of the highlights of seeing like me being like, I don't know how that's gonna go over, and it just being so fun. So yeah, all in all, a net positive.
I loved how you brought up your husband during Final Tribal as well. What did that mean for him to see that moment?
Yeah, I mean, it just happened last night and we haven't had a lot of time to debrief if I'm being honest, but I mean, I had told him about it when I got home and I think that he understood what I meant. We're very similar in that way. It feels Midwest nice is often like diminish yourself a little bit, apologize for the things you do, and I think that we both fall into that trap a little bit where we don't like have the confidence to stand up without feeling like we are in some way being cocky or bragging. And I really do believe that being able to kind of sit there, I remember right before my final words at Tribal, I was like, Rachel, you need to say your game without minimizing it or apologizing for it. That's what your final words need to be. And I thought, like, I just think that he sees that. And I hope that he can also just like embody that a little bit. Because it's something we both want to work on, it's good for us.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful, relatable thing, and nice that you got to share that moment. Thank you so much for your time, Rachel. Hope to see you on Survivor in the future, maybe.
Me too. That would be fun, wouldn't it? I
Yeah,
hope to talk again.